My name is Bruno, and I became a black person.
Two families, my family and the black family, got together in a house in the valley in LA, and we decided to swap races.
Any of you guys remember the old Chappelle Show sketch with the black and the white dad that switched families with Dave Chappelle playing the white dad and whiteface? And everyone thought it was funny because it's such an absurd concept, because no one in their right mind would ever try to apply this to real families, let alone go through the trouble of changing the race of these two families, one of which is 3 white people doing blackface. Except that's exactly what happened with the 2006 show Black White, co-produced by Ice Cube on FX. About a month ago I found out this show exists, and I did my normal check on YouTube to see if anyone else has talked about it, and to my surprise, nobody had. But I also could not find any footage of the show anywhere. So I had to order it on eBay and wait till I got it in the mail to see any footage of the show or see if I could even make a video out of it. But I ended up watching the whole show, all 6 hours of it, and I was stoked because I'd be the first person to talk about this show. Until a few days ago, Hassan Piker watched it on stream. So, maybe next time, I guess. But we won't let that stop us from watching today. Mainly because I paid for it and I spent over 6 hours of my life on the show already, so I'm gonna make a goddamn video. Like I said, the show centers around 2 families living in a house together as the opposite race. Now, they're not always the opposite race, only when they're going out to do experiments or congregate with other people outside of the project. The weird thing, though, is the black family is a real family, but the white one is not. Partially. The mom and daughter are actually a mother and daughter. It's the dad that is an actor, though, which I thought was quite odd. I didn't know that the first few episodes, and I didn't find out until I started reading the Wikipedia about halfway through, and I could start to see it through the show after finding out that information. The way they talk to him or refer to him is a little off. It makes sense that he's not actually the dad. This show really banks off the tension of having 2 families living in a house together, alongside racial tension, which is to be expected of a show with this context. And this show really is one that could only have been made in 2006, plain and simple. So much more was like okay for some reason back then. This shit would simply not fly today. That was the main drawing point for me wanting to talk about the show, is the fact that they just did blackface and it was fine. They use award-winning makeup artists to transform themselves into very, very uncanny versions of themselves as the other race. Brian is my favorite though, because they just gave this man the Dave Chappelle white guy special. We do not see him in his makeup nearly enough. I wish we saw more of that. No matter how good the makeup artists are though, it just does not look good. The only reason I think they passed for the opposite race and nobody questioned them or found out is because it's such an absurd concept, it doesn't cross anyone's mind. If I saw these people and I thought, you know what, something's not right here, my last thought would be, they're doing a TV show and they had award-winning makeup artists transform them into the opposite race. That would not even cross my mind. Now, while I think Brian's makeup is the most comical out of the group, I think Brian himself is one of the most grounded people on the show. Unlike Omar, the white dad, he is the most close-minded person on the show. Alright guys, so on today's episode of Chris's Blenders, we'll be discussing the fact that through the entirety of this video, I refer to Bruno, the white dad, as Omar. I think I just, for some reason, switched those names in my head when I was writing this video, and then since I was going off the script, I just kept going with it. And I'm gonna be honest, this is not the first time I've confused the 2 names, Bruno and Omar, in my life. So that's, I think, what makes this even worse. But just anytime I say Omar, it's fucking Bruno. So sorry, Bruno, if you're watching this. Anyways, back to the video. His whole thing going into the show is that racism isn't nearly as bad as they're making it out to be, and he's gonna go into this with a plucky attitude. I'm gonna treat everyone with respect, and then you're gonna see that it's how you look at it. It's how you're going in, you're looking for racism. That's his main thing. He's like telling Brian the whole show that he's looking for racism, and then that's why he finds it. And he holds on to that the entire show and never changes his mind. And for the moms, you have Renee, the black mom, and Carmen, the white mom. Renee is also very grounded in contrast to Carmen. I don't think Carmen says anything from a bad place. I think she just has a very severe case of not reading the room and saying the worst thing possible most of the time. Very much in the same way that Michael Scott from The Office says things. I like Renee a lot, but there is one weird thing that happens at the beginning of the show that is carried through the entirety of the show. Basically, early on, both moms are practicing talking like the opposite race, which, yeah. And as they're practicing and reading prompts off of paper, this happens.
It was just like a friendly conversation, just she was talking black and I was talking white. Yo, what? Out of the blue in our conversation, she goes, hey, you. I heard that word and it was like, whoa.
Now when I first saw this happen, I wasn't using subtitles, so I thought that Carmen had just said a racial slur and Renee took offense to it, and at that point I was like, alright, yeah, that makes sense. Even though they're reading off a prompt, it's like, maybe don't say that. But then come to find out the word she said was bitch. Like, she literally just read bitch off a prompt that was given to her by the show to say to Renee, and then Renee got pissed off and just never let that go. Now, I don't know if that's manufactured conflict from the show to spice things up, but honestly, after finding out that Omar isn't really the dad, I don't know what to believe. I still do think most of the stuff we see in the show is real though. I think they just sprinkle in stuff like that here and there. Now the two kids are Nick and Rose. We do see a lot more of Rose, especially her going to this poetry class that she ends up getting really into. She even ends up disclosing to them that she is actually, in fact, white. Which I'm surprised they weren't just like, yeah, we knew. We knew when we heard you rap. That was really bad.
It's really nice to hear you say something that I haven't heard, but I'm gonna tell you one thing that is true. Here's what I seen today. Y'all faces make me happy.
And then continues to stay in blackface after that, for some reason. That is one of the oddest things in this show, is the family staying in makeup even after certain people know the truth and understand the project they're doing. I can only imagine the producers just like paid in full for the makeup teams and wanted to get their goddamn money's worth. Now, like what I mentioned with Omar not really thinking that this race issue is that serious, him and Brian are butting heads constantly about it. The tensions seem to happen a lot more with the adults than the kids, obviously. And this is one of the funniest exchanges with the dads.
If you come into a place and you've got this resentment and this expectation of prejudice, it's gonna find you. If you go in with an open heart and love, and you know, you can laugh. But my life is, I get joy because I put joy out.
Like, just think about that for a second. What's going on here? Like, imagine how Brian feels, not only being mansplained, but white-splained, that how he thinks the issue of race is not that big of an issue, all while Omar is wearing blackface. But like I said, this issue comes up a lot with these two, and it never gets resolved. Brian, even at the end, just flat out says that Omar is racist.
I honestly, deep down inside, think that Bruno is racist.
So there's never any resolution with them two. The moms do clash a lot too, but like I said, most of that comes from the bitch incident, so it just seems like there's a lot of tension with that, and then small things that happen on top of it. It's still just an odd tension. Like, I would understand if Carmen just flat out called Renee a bitch, I would understand. But that's not what happened, so I don't know. But no matter how hard Renee does try to be friends with Carmen, she just cannot. They do not mesh well together at all. Some of the hardest scenes to watch in this show are when Renee and Carmen go out to run errands together and shit like this happens.
Do you know who that is?
Was that one of the Jacksons?
It really shows why it's so hard for Renee to be friends with Carmen.
Love your hair. Can I touch it?
Yes. It's a little dry right now.
Oh, it is too adorable.
Thank you.
You can't get any better than the stereotypical white woman wanting to touch a black person's hair for the novelty of it, as well as this 50 Cent line.
Because I'll be listening to like 50. Like, I love 50.
50s, 60s, 70s, 80s.
No! 50! 50 Cent!
I didn't think Carmen was going to be that bad, and especially when Carmen buys dashikis for her and Omar to wear to a black church the next day.
Actually, this is beautiful. But wouldn't that neat?
Well,
I like that. We came to the shop that had dashikis, and I thought that would be beautiful. I could see Bruno and I both donning these and feeling comfortable and almost regal.
It's 4 pieces.
For the man?
Yeah, pants, shirt,
Yeah.
grand boo and hat.
Grand boo-boo?
Yeah, that they call grand boo.
The whole idea of becoming black does, for some reason, give me permission to be more outrageous in ways, and I like that.
Spoiler alert, they don't end up wearing them. They get talked out of doing it, which I was so looking forward to seeing these two wearing these dashikis and it just being the worst thing in the world. I wanted a thumbnail, and I didn't get it. But like I said, Carmen suffers severely from not being able to read the room and saying sometimes the worst thing you can say. Especially in this scene where Rose invites all of her poetry friends over to the house for the night, and they're all reading their different pieces of poetry, and then Carmen gets up to give her 2 cents on everything. Which you can tell by listening to her. She thinks she's saying some good shit, but she's not.
I'm grateful to be touched by the children in this room. Their courage and their beauty inspired me as a poet. And I don't get you. You're off the charts. Are you gay or straight? Moved by the beauty of this magnificent black creature?
And I know what you're thinking. Why the hell would she say that? Well, don't worry, Omar is going to explain it to us in the most not condescending way ever.
You're just not familiar with that term. Whoever it bothered is, and I mean this in the nicest way, ignorant. Because they're not familiar with the term gorgeous creature. I've heard that since I was born.
Wow, what a bigoted thing to say, that a black person is a creature. Whew. Okay, you know what? Maybe you ought to ask Carmen what she meant by that.
That's Omar's favorite way of explaining things. Condescendingly. Another one of my favorite parts about the show is when Omar's trying to get a slam dunk on Brian by finding the richest black man in LA he can get his hands on to try and get more of an insight on how he was able to find success even as a black man. And it doesn't quite go his way.
Bruno, we can't agree on anything. I just think you're full of crap, though. I don't know how your wife can put up with you because I sense that you'll be insensitive in other areas and not perceptive of how other people would live and navigate through the world.
I see it as logic.
While those scenes with Carmen earlier were pretty fucking hard to watch, nothing compares to the etiquette class that Nick and Rose go to. They're basically paired up with some of the most annoying rich white kids you've ever seen, and by annoying, I mean like 2006 annoying. And to Rose's credit, she's pretty self-aware of that, and I think she's so much more woke compared to these children.
Etiquette class is not just a white kid thing. It's a rich white kid thing.
Nick, you totally dropped everything.
Nick.
Gosh.
I'm not gonna tell you again. Being selfish, man. Being selfish.
And it gets even worse when the etiquette class is invited to their home for the evening. They're all snooping around the house and they end up finding Nick's black stuff, and then they start to get suspicious, which I can only imagine is some more shit that the show just made up because that's ridiculous. And in fear of them being found out, they basically confess that Nick is not white. He is in fact black. And if you thought they were annoying before, you just wait.
He's black, you guys.
Oh, he's that's so cool.
I'm just light skinned. I'm like,
oh,
no, I just wear that because it's my style.
Dress up like black.
Don't be a mean
Be black.
Y'all keeping it real? Y'all keeping it real, homies? Yeah.
All my black friends, they wave canes around. They're like, it's gonna be a like that.
These clips are in fact some of the worst parts of the show. I will say one of the more feel-good parts of the show, and I say one of the as if there are others. And this is when Renee's on the search for a friend, and not only a friend, she wants to find a white friend because she kind of feels left out because the rest of the family has been able to find friends of the other race that they connect with, and she hasn't. But at first she doesn't have any luck, which to be fair, she is going to the most old, boring white lady activities to find friends, and that's all she's finding is old white ladies that she doesn't connect with, until she actually does find one that she develops a real friendship with and really enjoys being around. And then she eventually reveals that she is not white, she is in fact black. They end up staying friends regardless, which I would have hoped. Now, Nick doesn't do much in the show, which I get because he's, I think, the youngest, and I could not imagine being at the peak of my teen angst on this show. So more of the conflict with him is just like him and his parents and their own issues, which I would also hate if I was a teenager on a show like this. I also wanted to make an effort to not really dig at the kids as much because they're young. They probably didn't ask for this, let alone not really know much of what they're doing. Overall, the show wasn't nearly as bad as I thought it was going to be. Still quite bad, but not nearly as bad. I think the worst part really is just the blackface kind of shit. Stuff like that they were probably banking on being like a polarizing thing that was gonna bring in viewers, and then it just turning into a normal reality show. Still one of those cases where maybe the show just didn't need to exist, which is why it's on FX. The show did win an Emmy for Outstanding Makeup on a Series, which it should not have. Jesus Christ. And I hope that in the 15 years since airing, Omar has maybe had some enlightenment, which honestly, I can't imagine how much more enlightenment you can get than being on this show. And I hope that maybe he has grown in some way and become more open-minded. Now, alongside the show being the worst, the theme song also is the worst, called Race Card by Ice Cube. Here's a snippet.
Did you get your race card? Hell no, I didn't get my race card.
I had to listen to that so much because I had the grueling task of watching this entire show on DVD for 6 hours, so I've had that shit stuck in my head for 2 days straight. I do hope you guys did enjoy coming on this journey with me. I absolutely did not. If you guys did enjoy the video, consider giving it a like rating down below. It lets me know you enjoyed the video and it helps out the channel a bunch, as well as commenting. That does help out the channel too, and it lets me know what you guys think. And if you're new here and you enjoyed the video, stick around and subscribe and check out some of my other stuff. I want to thank you guys again for watching, and I will see you next time. Goodbye.
Everything ain't black and white. Did you get your race card? Hell no, I didn't get my race card. Did you get your race card? Hell no, I didn't get my race card.